Ramstein 21 online. What was the priority of it? Why ballot ban in Ukraine is legal? Why Baltic states say no more Russia ever? And who's responsible if money sent to Ukraine does not help Ukraine? These are the questions for today. Good afternoon, this is Henry Keane at UATV English. It is good to be back to give you the same hard truth in same easy, I hope, terms as usual. The United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd voiced out the main priority at the 21st meeting of the contact group on the defense of Ukraine.
Ukraine is in dire need of more air defense systems and it urgently needs more missiles. This will be a huge priority for all of us today. Ukraine also needs more artillery and armored vehicles to protect its citizens and take back stolen territory. And we will do everything we can to give them help. Lloyd Austin, United States Secretary of Defense, at the 21st Rammstein session.
Well, Mr. Austin finally voiced what really is an everyday reality for us in Ukraine already for more than 2 years. Russia is carrying out increasingly brutal attacks on Ukraine's critical civilian infrastructure, including power plants, and more Ukrainian civilians are dying. That's why today we will pay special attention to strengthening Ukraine's air defense, the head of the Pentagon said. He emphasized one more important thing, though. Ukraine's struggle for freedom is important for all of us. If Ukraine falls under Putin's boot, Europe will be in his shadow. Therefore, we are still determined to deter Russia from any further aggression, in particular against our NATO allies, said the head of the Pentagon. So yes, other dictators are closely watching, and it is obvious for anyone who is not only looking but also sees. I now will be quoting Lloyd Austin, but really it could be President Zelensky or Biden, Macron or Scholz, or any Western leader who is sane. If Putin got his way in his aggression against Ukraine, then Putin's autocrat associates would learn a dangerous lesson and the whole world would become more dangerous. Strengthening the arsenal of Ukraine democracy for the sake of the whole world, that is how a main priority of 21st Rammstein sounds today. Amen to that. And please only let me add just one thing here for our all mutual human sake. The sooner, the better. Whatever country you are living in, imagine you are the president. Then imagine Russians invaded your country to destroy it. Now imagine you did not flee. You remained in power when it was most necessary and did your best to arm your nation to fight the aggressor back most valiantly. Imagine also you did it for 2 years in a row. And now imagine your political opponents, and there are a lot, which is a must for democracy that your country, of course, are saying that because there is no ballot during martial law, your power is now not legal, while according to the said martial law, it is exactly the opposite. According to the law, the ballot is not legal during the war. Moreover, it is even illegal for you as a president to leave the office. So now, if you were able to imagine all that, you did a great job in imagining Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, martial law ballot controversy. But that controversy of Zelensky's situation with that ballot is not really a controversy. Nothing controversial when legal president decides to continue to be legal and rejects the illegal opinion and option of active ballot during the martial law. Well, of course, Russia will try to turn the things upside down and use it all against Zelensky and Ukraine. No doubt President Zelensky will be accused of blasphemy against democracy by, look who's speaking, the Kremlin.
In May, the moment will actually come when the legitimacy of the current president expires, and we will orient ourselves accordingly, analyze the situation in order to declare our position. Dmitry Peskov, Kremlin press secretary.
Well, Comrade Peskov and all Putin's cavalry, including the indicted Tsar himself, has already declared their position on February 24, 2022, loudly. War, destruction, children abduction, genocide of Ukrainian nation, these are official Russian goals. So it is quite obvious that the Russian provocateurs are only dreaming that Zelensky is following their lead and announces the ballot during martial law, thus acting illegally by announcing plebiscite during the war. Then given the inevitable difficulties with an actual turnout, not only for those at the front line, but also for millions of war refugees who fled the country, the ballot can, and no doubt will be announced by the Kremlin, whatever, you name it, illegitimate, failed, faked, and even, yes, that's right, illegal, accusing Zelensky of acting against Ukrainian law when announcing it and thus being illegitimate president. Well, the Kremlin can keep on dreaming.
It was most encouraging to observe the wide range of consensus which emerged. This is especially so in the context of the number of strategic consensual decisions agreed by every faction and the determination to work as united as possible for the realization of Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic policy objectives. I am also very pleased that the factions have agreed on the principles of holding future free and fair national parliamentary and presidential elections after the end of the war and martial law. Pat Cox, President of the European Parliament in 2002-2004.
Well, all this artificial mayhem and fake fire of controversy raised by Russian influencers around the globe about Zelensky's legitimacy and martial law ballot can and should be easily extinguished by simple and powerful means, abiding by the law. Ukraine will abide by the law. Zelensky will abide by the law. Nothing more and nothing less. Because in Ukraine, like nowhere else in the world, so to be aware of all the dangers of tyranny and dictatorship, it is enough to look at Russia, that's it. And in Ukraine, like nowhere else in the world, we know that abiding by law is a way to avoid such a pitiful fate, becoming a dictatorship. And nowhere in the world, like in Ukraine, we demand a legal and fair ballot immediately after the victory. Ladies and gentlemen, I stress out, after the victory, and not instead of it, as the Kremlin would undoubtedly like it to be the case. When you hear that a small country spends a lot of its, to be frank, not too large GDP just to send weapons to Ukraine to help it win, you might ask yourself a question: why? Well, it is all about the history repeating, you see, because we in Baltics remember. We might look outnumbered, but that does not mean we have no reason to be outraged by these memories. Today, some in the West can still wallow in a comforting mire about Russia. But we in the Baltics simply cannot afford that. We once were under Soviets, you see, so we know the truth. Russia won't stop. Even if Putin does us all a great Russian favor and dies tomorrow, Russia will continue to be what it is, an empire with a nation that is craving for Russian greatness. But what is it, Russian greatness? Well, if a nation that claims to be solidly conquering fascism during World War II today becomes the impersonation of exactly the idea it once conquered, then indeed it will be great to watch the Soviet empire to devour itself, if not the atrocities of war and metastases of Sovietness it spreads around the globe. But if Moscow and big Russian cities are looking just as Western cities do, then where is the proclaimed Russian greatness of Russia? Where are them Russian cars, Russian computers, Russian high-tech, Russian planes and Russian money, a part of those trillions of dollars and euros stashed by Russian oligarchs in Europe and England and the United States? Russia buys it all from the West, arrogantly allowing itself to forget it has been bought by and not produced by Russia. Immediately after the purchase, a miracle happens when the good crosses the border and enters Russia. It suddenly becomes Russian, inside the Russian mind, you see, and the same trick Russia wants to do with Ukraine. With all of Europe, if allowed. Russia invaded a European country to make itself look like somewhat a Europe. Russian national idea sounds exactly like that. If we can't live as good as you do in the West, we invade you and make you live as bad as we do in Russia. This is how we in the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, know what is it exactly that Russia wants. It wants a time to be turned back to Soviet era. And we in Baltic states know exactly what to do. We must come together. Together with the United States of America, Europe and England and all countries of civilized humanity to counter Russia's dictatorial ambitions, so to make other dictators of the world think twice before acting. Here is what Baltic states says out loud and clear.
The new bloody terror of Russia in Europe contributes to the growth of instability and threats around the world. However, we in Lithuania are calm because we know that we will never be alone again. We will always have a strong, supportive alliance family by our side, and we will face any challenges together.
You have to understand that there is always some propaganda going on, especially from Russia and as well from Belarus, especially to those countries which either are preparing to decide something on Ukraine or has been brave enough to be very loud on protecting all the initiatives which help Ukraine. So Baltic countries has been in constant propagandic threat from Belarus and Russia, and we have to acknowledge where is truth and where is this false information.
You see, we in the Baltics are not asking ourselves the question if Putin will invade Europe any further and if he will try to occupy all that once was already occupied by Soviets. We know he will, simply because he can't help it. He is a Soviet KGB thug himself. That's it. And the world finally begins to see who he is and what is Russia. As Volodymyr Zelensky said it many times, Putin dreams of restoring the Soviet Union, and he will try to conquer areas that were formerly under the Kremlin's foot. He is not afraid of NATO countries, Zelensky said in an interview with NBC News. This is his strategy. Poland and part of Germany will come under attack after the Baltic states, undoubtedly. Well, Putin is not afraid of NATO because NATO allows him not to be. And Putin is without any doubt a thug indicted by ICC and a murderer and a thief and is all bad in all possible senses of the term. Still, he's actually right in one thing. Winners are not judged. And this is exactly why the world should win first. Now. Time for more on UATV English. Finally, you ask hard questions, we answer in easy terms. The question of the week, indeed, has been voiced by our viewer, user, and many symbols after that. And the question sounded like, who would be guilty when that money don't help Ukrainians to back territory? Well, first of all, thank you so very much for the question. No, really, I mean it. Answering that in my head first made me better understand the matter. So the answer is, you get it all wrong, dear user with many symbols. We're not fighting for our territory in the first place. We are fighting for victory. As it is the only thing that can help Ukraine to survive as a nation, you see. Whatever you think of us and our war, yes, the only one. No, appease the aggressor strategies work here. They never did, actually. It never worked with Hitler, never will work with Soviet self-proclaimed Tsar, because they are all the same tyrants and dictators. So if we lose way more than land or money. We lose ourselves and no territory or just money matters then. Go check a history of any nation who tried to appease an enemy instead of fighting it. They all perished. So dear user with the many symbols, the land is secondary, believe it or not. But the answer you want from me is obvious. You want me to confirm that we in Ukraine understand that if we lose, it is our fault and your money did not make any good. And what if it does? What if whatever you think of that, it really ain't the war for land Ukraine is fighting, but the war for human values indeed? And what if the world is helping Ukraine to win for our all mutual human sake? Well then, dear user, that must be quite a comforting feeling that Ukrainian victory also is won by you, even if you did nothing more but asking questions. That seems to be all, folks, for tonight and for the week. It was me, Henry Keane, in UATV English studio, breaking the hard truth to easy terms for the whole free world, directly from Ukraine as usual. We also kinda like you, and we hope the feeling is at least somewhat mutual, so please like us in return, subscribe, share, help us to promote Ukrainian voice worldwide, and stay safe and tuned for more right already, tomorrow. See ya.